to equity in education and opportunities across the state of Minnesota. So today I'm excited to announce that 30 communities across Minnesota, from Kittson to Houston County, and every place in between, will soon have access to broadband internet access. The Minnesota Department of Employment and Economic Development is awarding grants totaling $23 million to broadband providers and tribal governments to expand broadband access to unserved and underserved Minnesota communities. The awards will help 9,300 households, 60 community institutions, 436 individual businesses, and 1,044 farms in these grossly underserved or unserved at all. The grant will provide up to 50% of the cost of developing broadband for improved high-speed internet communications. Access to broadband is absolutely critical for the growth and the idea of One Minnesota. It's equally important to the factors of future economic and social sustainability across communities in Minnesota. Our administration has a strong public interest in the continued deployment and use of broadband services to meet the needs of all Minnesota communities. The state of Minnesota has set a goal for universal access and high-speed internet to be there by no later than 2022. All Minnesota businesses' homes have access to high-speed broadband that provide minimum download speeds of at least 25 megabits per second and minimum upload speeds of at least 3 per second. And by no later than 2026, all Minnesota businesses and homes will have access to at least one provider of broadband with download speeds of 100 megabits. It's in this 5th year of the Border-to-Border Broadband Development Grant Program, and this enjoys bipartisan support. We wouldn't be here without the advocates for rural broadband. Last legislative session, lawmakers approved $40 million in one-time funds for the 2021 year. However, we need the investment that's vital for Greater Minnesota to be funded again. Although DEED received requests of over $70 million with 80 different applications. Robust broadband access is not a luxury, it's the way to the future. Fast, reliable broadband is critical to the economic developments. I'm super excited that this happened. We requested about 80, and we ended up getting about half that last time. The requests are mirroring very closely what we thought they would be, closer to the $80 million. So my hope is this is very strong bipartisan support. Representative Eklund already said he's ready to author the next piece of legislation to get the other half of this so that we can stay on track and get this done. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Commissioner Grove from BEAD.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Governor. Well, thank you, Governor, for your leadership on this, and to Representative Eklund and others in the legislature who made this happen. It really was a team effort. To Brett and Anna and Nancy and other advocates in the room and many more. There was a lot of voice from the Capitol throughout last session, and it's an honor to be here today to get to announce these awards. As you can see, they span really the entire state. We were able to help 3 tribal nations as well, which is an increased focus for our administration to get the broadband access that they need. Boys Fort, Leech Lake, and Fond du Lac tribes will all be benefiting from these grants in the coming months. Also want to just thank our team that runs really one of the model programs in our country on broadband development. Minnesota's program is copied by many other states as really a shining example of excellence when it comes to using state dollars to fund broadband. In particular, Angie Dickinson, Diane Walz, and Kevin McKinnon from that team have just done a phenomenal job of building an extraordinary program that we as Minnesotans can really be proud of. As the governor said, in 2014, the state here did something really interesting. They not only set these goals for 2022, but they declared that broadband should be a right for all Minnesotans, an actual right. You should have broadband in your home. And when you think about it, in today's economy, having broadband in your home is just as essential as having electricity or water. You almost wouldn't buy a house if you didn't know you could have broadband access there. And again, not just because of entertainment or access to checking out what's going on out there, but also to learn and to grow and start a business and to engage with the world around us. Today, with about 93% of households in the state that have access to that moderate level of speed, which is 25 down, 3 up. But of course, our goal is to have a really strong level of speed across the state with 100 megabits per second down and 20 megabits per second up. And on that front, we still are lagging. Only 86% of the state's households are there. We're going to need more investment to get there by 2026, again, to meet those goals. And when you look back and kind of compare broadband access to how the telephone spread throughout the country, about 100 years for the telephone to be a truly ubiquitous device in all homes. And I think we all know with the speed of our economy today, we don't have that kind of time for broadband. We have to move quicker. And so, in addition to these grants, the governor has done a lot of additional things to build the ecosystem around this access. For one, he's reinstated the governor's task force on broadband. Just had its first meeting about last month, second meeting coming up this Friday. Really a critical group of leaders who are coming together to help the governor, the state, the legislature understand both the mapping of our state, but also not just how to get internet to homes, but what to do next. Once broadband hits a community, how do you shorten the amount of time from the minute the connection hits a community to the minute that community is benefiting economically from that access? So that task force is a big thing. And then secondly, we have a new designation in our state called Telecommuter Forward. It's this new idea that a lot of advocates brought forward in this last session to designate certain towns who do unique things like build co-working spaces, again, get that broadband access there, but bring together the opportunity for residents to do telecommuting once broadband hits. And this is a really exciting economic development opportunity for rural parts of our state, where with broadband they can develop call centers, telecommuting institutions where people can work from where they want in the state. For companies around the world based on that access. So this designation, this Telecommuter Forward designation, is something that DEED is giving to small towns across our state once they've done certain things to show they are set up to help their residents do better telecommuting, and we think that's kind of an exciting next chapter of this program. Now, I would just say lastly, broadband was but one piece of what we think was the most robust technology package that a governor has ever passed, or I should say government has ever passed in Minnesota's history. When you combine the broadband grant program with the angel tax credit coming back, and with the development of Launch Minnesota, which will help new early stage startups get off the ground, you're beginning to see more levers inside of government to help communities across our state take advantage of the new economy, build startups and growth and entrepreneurship. And we just think that's a really exciting time. And with broadband, we can show that it's not just done here in the Twin Cities, but can be done across the state. So we're excited about this program. The work lies ahead of getting these lines in the ground, and we're excited this funding to do it, and are looking forward to what's next. And with that, I'll turn it over to someone who really was a key leader in making all this happen, Representative Eklund.
Thank you.
Thank you, Governor Walz and Commissioner Grove. As stated, I'm Rob Eklund. I represent District 3A, which encompasses all of Couchiching, all of Cook, most of Lake County, and a pretty good share of St. Louis County. I want to thank Governor and Commissioner for having me here today as we announce a new border broadband grants. I noticed one of them is where I live, so I won't have the excuse of not be able to take my laptop home anymore. So anyway, so I had the honor to carry the funding behind these grants in the Minnesota House last session. It's truly needed. When I first ran for this office, the traditional range Democrat runs on taconite tourism and timber. Well, I think we need to add technology as the fourth leg of that stool, and I'm glad that I had the opportunity to carry this bill and make this happen. The reasons for continued public investment in high-speed broadband are numerous. There's no reason that our students need to go to the nearest fast food place or nearest library or nearest coffee shop to get hooked up to public Wi-Fi to get their homework done. That's needs to end, and if we're going to move our students forward, we need to have the right tools in place to make it happen. My region and other regions of Minnesota have a ton of potential for new economic opportunities, and I'm grateful that we can see both current companies prosper and new entrepreneurs prosper. But we need this continued investment in rural Minnesota to keep our communities vibrant and thriving. Healthcare, agriculture, and emerging industries that we don't even know about yet are going to need to rely on this new technology to make it happen. So again, looking ahead, I'm hoping my fellow legislators, the governor, indeed, and the other agencies see the importance of this, and we need to move this broadband project forward. And as said earlier, I have another bill ready to go to try to make up the shortfall. So all Minnesotans having reliable, fast broadband internet access will be essential to the betterment of our overall economy. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Nancy Hoffman. I'm the Chisago County Economic Development Authority Director, and I'm pleased to be here today on that behalf because we've applied for these grants in the past, and they've done wonders for our county, and we have more to do. So I'm really happy to be here for that, but I'm really honored today to be here on behalf of the Minnesota Rural Broadband Coalition. Coalition is made up of 90 members, various organizations that came together to advocate together for broadband. We have members from all four corners of the state, and we have a multitude of different organizations that are involved with us. We have healthcare, education, farming, business, utilities, providers, and a variety of government and nonprofit organizations. Our number one priority has been funding the fund, the border broadband grants. So we're thrilled to be here today to see that happen. The grants, as much as what we've heard before, are used to help students with their education, with patients who need to access healthcare, especially in the rural areas. Businesses can reach their customers and their vendors and send large files through internet. We have farmers who amazingly use the internet to fertilize their fields and plant crops with precision, and just even surfing the web, surfing the net. People move to locations when they can do that. So we thank you, Governor Walz, very much for supporting this and making it a high priority, and Commissioner Grove and your staff for supporting us and helping us through this. We also want to say thank you to the legislators, especially Senator Mark Moran and Rob Eklund, for authoring the bills for us. We really do appreciate as well that this is a 2-year program, a multi-year program, so those that maybe didn't get funded this time are ready to roll next year and apply for the grants. So thank you.
Thank you, Nancy, and I think you can see the need is there. I think that's right, that the 20 million and will come out again next year, and I think this makes perfect sense that this is a perfect year to think about one-time funding to use this program. The infrastructure's in place, it's working, and I think anymore it almost becomes cliche talking about how many different ways that we use this. There was one that I had not thought about until they explained it, trying to conserve propane, that our corn dryers are on the internet and adjusting accordingly micro changes to the moisture content of that and what they could do with their propane so that you're not wasting propane on over drying, getting it just right. And if there was a breakdown from a remote drying location, it signaled the house right away so you didn't have lost time, and it's just smart. It's absolutely critical. It's what strengthens the entire state. So I'm excited about this program. I'm excited these grants are getting out. Folks work really hard at this, and I've been out there and up on polls with folks. We're getting this, and there's a lot of innovation out there, how to get it out to our rural areas. That final mile is the hardest one to run. It's the most expensive one, and it's going to take this type of help. It will not be, you will not see Comcast building it out there without this. You will not see folks having access to it, and I think that's what legislators know. So any questions, we'd be glad to entertain.
Governor, how much are you talking about additional money out of the surplus one time to beef this up?
Yeah, I think you heard Representative Eklund talk about funding a bill. I think I mentioned that there's going to be a very modest potential for a supplemental budget, and I think we should think about one-time money in a supplemental where it's not putting on added over year after year and has tails to it. So that's what I think would make sense to see. I think what's really been great about this is we put our proposal out, the legislators pretty much mirrored it, and I think they will again.
Is there a dollar figure yet you're thinking about it?
Well, Representative Eklund, you talked about 30 million.
30 million is what I.
That would hit what the requests were that came in on the shortfall that we had, and that's probably about right, because this has been really well thought out. The rural broadband folks have done a really nice job on the economics of it, of what it takes to do it. So I think that's probably about right.
Do you have to wait for the second year to do the rest of the money?
How does the grant process work on that when you do the second one?
So we'll have another $20 million grant process this coming year. So if we passed more in the session, we would add it to that next round.
But why don't you had requests, was there some reason why you couldn't do all 40 in this round?
It's the way it was split up by biennium. It was split up to be 20 and then 20. We encourage the people who, it's part of the statute, but we'll definitely encourage those who, there are many applications we turned away, obviously we're very, very good, and we'll encourage them to come back.
Do we have any idea how close we are? I mean, I know you can never be 100% done, but maybe to 99.9% done in terms of what's needed in this.
Yeah, so as I said before, we're 93% of the state is at that 25 down, 3 up. And that sounds, for those of you who know the numbers, that's not super fast, just to be clear. You're really going for 100 down, 20 up to be a kind of stable connection for which you could reasonably say telecommute out of your home or trust that line to be there. On that front, we're I think at 86% of the state so far. And so we've got a ways to go. And to the governor's point, it's the last mile is the most difficult, and it's the last percentage points that are most difficult, because those that remain to get to. When you see pictures of the guys out in the field and the teams out in the field putting these lines in, they are, trenching through water, climbing through really stony rock. It's tough work to get these lines in the ground, and so that's why grant programs are needed. There's just no incentive for telecom to do this without some state funding.
Has there been any sort of estimate of, at least a rough estimate of what dollars additional are to bring this across the finish line as far as for the higher speed?
Well, when we came to the legislature last session, our estimate was that if we went 70 million over the biennium, which would be 35 and 35 roughly, we would be on pace to meet that 2022 goal. So by coming in at 40, we're knocked down 30 million off of the pace that we need to get there. And so we can do the math out through 2022 and see what that would take. But it's it's several dozen more $1 million to get that 10%.
You mentioned that you're 5 years in. Have you seen anything with the more established companies coming in behind the initial providers now that the infrastructure has been laid down?
Oh, you mean to further once the infrastructure is
And
there?
to give those customers out there options.
I believe that, and maybe the staff can answer this question better than I, but I believe once the line's in the ground that the provider has rights to it for some time, and then maybe that opens up for competition. Do we see that, Angie? I don't actually know if we see that trend more often.
For our program, Commissioner, the providers own the infrastructure.
Yeah, so it's owned by the providers. Whether that inspires another provider to come in and compete, I guess largely not often, because they're so hard to get in the ground in the first place. You probably would have been there first if you thought it was an opportunity. So, yeah, the competition probably isn't there to what you'd like to see it, but at least the line's there and the connection's strong.
Well, are you buying any control on rates? If we help them put in the infrastructure, can they go and triple rates tomorrow if they want to?
No, they have to offer it at a competitive rate, and our friends at Commerce regulate that amount. So no, you can't gouge customers based on being a monopoly in that.
If there's no
market.
competitive, what's the competitive rate? Some sort of statewide average or?
How does the rating work? It's a great question. I don't know because we don't regulate that as much, but it's a Commerce question. Yeah.
We do look at rates across the state, but that is a question I'd like to get back to you on to give you better detail.
Peter, if you can email me after this, I can count what Commerce too.
I think you might have been. Yeah, it's a friends at Commerce, but it's an important question, so let's get into it.
Would you do one more on topic? I know folks have some questions for the governor off topic after this too.
Are these grants only for fiber connected broadband? Because I know that there's been some advances and more satellite based.
Yeah, it's a great question, Brian. It's technology agnostic, as long as technology that a provider is suggesting to be used works. This round, we did not see any fixed wireless proposals come through. It was primarily fiber and coax fiber cable, so all lines in the ground. But we have seen fixed wireless in the past. It's a technology that's out there, and we expect to see more applications from other technologies in the future.
I know our, go ahead, Governor.
Yeah, no, thank you all. It's exciting. These are all good points. And this issue about competition is always one that challenges me because the idea is you'd like to believe that the market would keep prices down. Folks just won't build out there. There's just no market for it. And so I think the question was good is if they could piggyback off that, but it gives them no incentive if we don't do it. So this is one of those cases that there'll be a market failure, if you will, to finish that final mile. We saw the same thing with electrification too. That this is just kind of the natural outgrowth of it. But I do think the question on the technology upgrades is something too, but the fiber is the one that's consistent work. So thank you all. Thank you, Commissioner. Thanks, Nancy. Really appreciate it.